foolish mortals.
Hello there. Are you insane? Get out of here!
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Right, off you go.
Welcome to Average Joe Orlando. Hello, theme park goers. Welcome to another Joe's Deep Dive, and we're going to talk about Hollywood Studios, basically extinct everything. I started researching this because I did an episode on extinct attractions for Epcot, and as I started putting together an extinct attractions for Hollywood Studios, I realized they have a lot of shows, which kind of are attractions for that park since it is more of a show park. And then they had a lot of events that used to be there I remember doing, and then they had a lot of parades I remember seeing. So I kind of just put it all into one. I am breaking out another episode for Extinct Epcot Entertainment because they just had so much other stuff on their own. So, but this one I felt like as I kind of put it all together, I'm like kind of overlapped. What's really a show? What's an attraction? What's an experience? What's an event? But anyway, let's dive in because it's going to be all over the place. Let's go. Events. ESPN The Weekend. They used to have these started in 2004 and then got canceled by 2011. I remember going to one of them. I'm not a big sports person, so I didn't really understand who any of the people were. I was just like, they must be an athlete. But it was kind of a way to promote ESPN, and then they had different athletes coming to do autographs and such. Star Wars weekends, those I remember going to, and I'm not a really big Star Wars fan, but I liked this a lot. It ended in 2015. And this was really cool. It was over the summer, and they would have different celebrities from Star Wars and stuff, and lots of different characters that you never get to meet. And then they would always end with this thing called the Hyperspace Hoopla, which would be a big stage show featuring all the characters. This is before Disney owned it, and I guess they made it more strict. But this was a lot more laid back, and it was just fun. And they would have these two hosts that were just really funny, and they would bring them all out. And I remember having them do like LMFAO, with Chewbacca, and it was kind of like, if you remember Bill and Ted, rest in peace, over at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. It was very similar to that, but with kind of just pop culture references with Star Wars. But these ended in 2015. I feel like if they bring this back, this would do very well. They also had ABC Super Soap Weekend. If they brought this, I don't know if anybody would care. But this ended. I never got to go, and I probably wouldn't, in 2008. But it was a big soap opera thing where they would have stars from like All My Children, One Life to Live, General Hospital, those kind of shows. So not really something for me. However, definitely something that people might be interested in. And then the last event is something that I definitely missed, the Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights. Now, this would be over the holidays on the streets of America, and this ended in 2015. Should have never ended and should be back elsewhere. We have so much property here. Why can't we put it somewhere else? But this was the dancing lights that would be featured on the streets of America, which were fantastic and definitely missed. But let's deep dive out of events and kind of go into more of what used to be there, what is currently there, what can you see the remnants of. We'll start over at the Theater of the Stars, and this is over at Hollywood Boulevard on the Sunset Boulevard. It originally was, if you looked at the park from above when it was first opened, it was a giant Mickey head. Echo Lake, where Gertie is the right ear. The left side is the Theater of the Stars. This is before Sunset Boulevard, where Tower of Terror is. I'm showing it with my hands right now, so that's really helpful for you. But this would be, and then in the front would be Mickey's face, would be kind of where the Sorcerer's Hat used to be, with like a smile. But from above was a giant hidden Mickey. So originally there was a theater there till 1993, and then they moved the Theater of the Stars to Sunset Boulevard when that street got pushed out that way. And there was a show called Hollywood, a star-studded spectacular that ran for its first year. And then they had a Dick Tracy show when it reopened in the new theater. Sorry, that was in the old theater, the Dick Tracy show. And then there was Hollywood's Pretty Woman. This is very interesting that they had this. And then Beauty and the Beast live on stage was in the old theater and then relocated when the new theater opened and is still there today, the exact same show. People love it. I think it's a little dated, but very interesting to think that there was a Pretty Woman and Dick Tracy show before that. They also used it for special events like Star Wars Weekend. They had, if anyone remembers the Music of Pixar Live, that was really nice when they did that. They've done orchestra there. They've done actually live recordings of different TV shows. I think it was the Rosie O'Donnell show back in the day, filmed in there. And then they have the Holidays and Hollywood show that goes there seasonally also. So big outdoor theater that is covered. There's the Hyperion Theater. That's over on the main area, if you know where that is, where Frozen currently is, or for the holidays, the what's this? But that opened as Superstar Television. I definitely spoke about something I missed in a previous podcast. And that was that interactive show where you got to be in some of your favorite sitcoms. After that closed in 1998, Doug Live opened for 2 years from 99 to 2001. This was based on the Nickelodeon show then Disney bought and ruined and made Disney's Doug Live. And then after that, it was a very short show called Get Happy with ABC. Don't know much about that. Didn't last long. And then the American Idol experience opened in 2009, closing in 2014. Apparently, they had a lot of trouble getting guests to participate in it, so it was a kind of a tough one to do. And this was before American Idol was brought back by ABC. It was like when it first ended on Fox, so it's kind of a weird timing for that one. And then they opened the first time in forever sing-along, which we'll talk about later, that came in a different area, but was brought here permanently in 2015, and is still going strong. Even though, if you like it, hey, it does well. It's popular. The Mickey Shorts Theater, so next door, that opened up as the Monster Sound Studio in 1989 and ran until 1997 and then became the ABC Sound Studio until 2012. This was an interactive show that opened, and it was fun. You got to be, if you wanted to be participating, it was, I think it was Martin Short and I don't know who else was in it. It was Martin Short, and basically it was like you got to watch the movie fully through, silent, and then you would add in the special effects sounds, and then you'd watch it back with the special effects sounds to see how things are made. So going back to that old theme of what the park used to be, which was how movies are made. It then became One Saturday Morning Sound Show for 97 to 99, and then became Sounds Dangerous with Drew Carey from 1999, and then went seasonally in 2009 until it closed permanently in 2012. That was a show where you put the headphones on and basically sat in the dark with Drew Carey. Not the greatest. It also just became a sign-up area for the Star Wars Training Academy for the kids, and then became Star Wars Path of the Jedi, which was kind of just a movie for 2015 to 2018. And then currently today, it is Mickey and Minnie in Vacation Fun, in case you wanted to pay $180 to go sit and watch a short cartoon. Inside the Epic Theater has not changed, so it's nothing that's extinct. Which is pretty cool. That's still the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular since 1989. And then, soon to be extinct, is Muppet Vision 3D in another theater. That's the Grand Arts Theater. That opened in 1991 and is closing this summer. Don't want to talk about it. On Hollywood Boulevard, they had some cool entertainment. They had High School Musical Pep Rally that ran in 2007. Then in 2008, you had High School Musical 2, School's Out. Then in 2008 to 2010, High School Musical 3, Right Here, Right Now. And then 2010 to 2013, this is the one I remember because I was living here, was Disney Channel Rocks, which was the combination of all the Disney Channel movies. And they would have a platform stage that would drive down and stop in front of the hat. Also in front of the hat, they would do things such as like March of the First Order from 2016 2019, where they'd have like a little stage show down there. Back on the New York street, where they'd have the Osborne family spectacle dancing. That's not Ozzy Osbourne, by the way. That all is basically Star Wars Galaxy's Edge now. In 1990 to 1995, they had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show, and I feel like I have a picture somewhere of me, like small, being with the Ninja Turtles. I was really into them. They had a show called, apparently also, I didn't know this one, Muppets on Location, and this was 1991 to 1994. And then they had an Ace Ventura Pet Detective live in action show, which I wasn't allowed to watch as a kid, so it's not really a kid's movie, I thought, but 95 to 96. And then they had a Goosebumps show, Horrorland, Fright Show, and Funhouse from 97 to 98. And this one I remember, Mulch, Sweat, and Shears, 2011 to 2015. I don't know why they got rid of them. They came by on like a landscaping truck, and they were supposed to be like a landscaping crew, and then they would set it up, and it would be a band, and they would do all cover songs, and they were really good. They would play all around the park, I remember, for different events and everything, but Mulch, Sweat, and Shears would play mainly back there in the New York section of the park. Back in the New York section park, they had the Premier Theater. It was also known as the Backlot Theater from 93 to 2002. Now, this was demolished for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and they had different things in this theater, which they kind of rotated through. This was the temporary location for Beauty and the Beast live on stage while the new theater was being built for the Theater on the Stars. They had a Pocahontas show that ran from 95 to 96. And then I remember seeing this one. They had the Hunchback show which was fantastic. This was from 96 to 2002. I was little, so I had to see if I could dig out the pictures, but they had a Hunchback show that went there. They used it for seasonal events for Star Wars weekends, and this is where when they had the Frozen Summer Fun, which is basically that event they threw together really quickly one summer. They did the sing-along there to begin with, so it started in 2014 to 2015. This was the first location of the Frozen sing-along. If you don't remember that event also, I guess I should have put this with the events. Frozen Summer Fun was when Disney kind of was like, oh no, I think it was the year that they opened up Diagon Alley, I want to say, at Universal, and Disney's like, we don't really have anything. Frozen's big, let's make an event. And they did like an indoor ice rink, they had character meet and greets, and then they did the sing-along, so they tried to make it more of like a Frozen summer thing. It was kind of where they threw Frozen everywhere. Now the next one's kind of weird because these are different sound stages and areas that used to be part of the backstage studio tour. So when the park opened in 1989, it was only 2 rides. It was the Great Movie Ride and the backstage studio tour, which was the tram ride and a walkthrough one. And then they kind of broke it up into different sections, such as like Inside the Magic. They did the backstage pass because the tram tour was just so long. It would take, I think it was like 2.5 hours, where they would literally stop in the middle and you can go get food and use the restroom and then go on the tour again. They had to break it up because it was just too long. Trying to compete basically with what Universal does with their tram tour. But this was originally the sound stages back there, where you will know for Toy Story Mania, and part of it became like Toy Story Land. And this was the backstage studio tour where you'd walk through the different sets. And then there was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It, and that ran from 2001 to 2006. And that was that interactive, I spoke about this on a previous podcast, where they would have you play actually to win a Disney cruise, which was pretty cool. They had Next Door, which became, which is part of the studio tour. This was also where the entrance of Toy Story Land is. And this was this little building, and it would be attached by all these different catwalks where you would look down into the theaters. And this would be part of that Inside the Magic area. They had the Haunted Mansion, where you'd walk through for the Eddie Murphy movie from 2003 to 2004. Then they had the Journey into Narnia, creating the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe from 2005 to 2008. Then they had the Prince Caspian. I remember seeing this and going, what is this? And then they had this weird Legend of Captain Jack Sparrow from 2012 to 2014. You basically walked in and it was like a screen thing, and he would like talk to you, and then the doors would open and you would think that you're starting the show, but that would actually just be the end. It was very interesting. It felt like it was more of like a test for future attractions than an actual attraction. Just gave you something to do, I guess. And then the Walt Disney Theater. So this is, if you know right now, One Man's Dream. Walt Disney Presents, or as it's called now. That was the theater, also part of the backstage tour. There was the making ofs in there when the park opened. So they would have different sections. So like 94 to 95 was The Lion King, and they would do 95 Pocahontas. They did Toy Story from 95 to 96. 96 they had The Hunchback. Then they had Evita in 97. That seems random. George of the Jungle, Flubber in 98, and then Armageddon from 98 to 99. And then it became One Man's Dream into Walt Disney Presents today. So kind of broke up that all those sound stages and those back areas into things that we know today. The Animation Courtyard Theater, so Soundstage 16, where the Journey of the Little Mermaid, or the Voyage of the Little Mermaid was. It opened in 99 till 91 as Here Comes the Muppets. And if you can find those on YouTube, it's hard because a lot of people didn't have, cameras and stuff. But it was like a giant stage show where the Muppets were life-size. So instead of the puppets that we know, it was like full-size characters. It became the Voyage of the Little Mermaid in 92, which closed up during COVID. And then it will be reopening this summer as The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure in that same area. So next door is the Soundstage Theater. So this was actually a restaurant. And I remember coming as a kid, and they would do the Soundstage restaurant, which have sets for different movies. It had sets from Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, which is interesting because those are animated, but still, it became, I remember I went when I was little, and I think they had Pocahontas was when it came out that year. And they had a character meet and greets you would do, but it was supposed to be like you were in basically a soundstage, but eating there. It was neat. This became Bear in the Big Blue House in 1999 to 2001, and then became Playhouse Disney Live on Stage, which had numerous different changes. So like 2001, 2005 had like Roly Poly Oly, and then 2005, 2008 had like JoJo's Circus, and then 2008, 2011 added like Handy Mandy. And then it became what it is today, which is, then it became Disney Junior Live on Stage. And this was more of like the puppet one that they would do also. And now it's more of a play and dance. We did take my niece to go see it since she's little. We're like, oh, this would be cool for kids. And it was kind of just like really quick, like, hey, here's a bunch of characters, jump up and dance because you're sitting on the floor and go. I'm good, don't need to go back, but it's still there. And then also the Sunset Showcase Theater. This was a newer theater. I always talk about how this one's kind of a random back in the courtyard. It's behind Rock and Roller Coaster. And this was built for like special events more so. I remember they opened up for this thing called Club Disney the first year in 2015. Then 2016, it was Club Villain, which I got to do once. And this was like a seasonal special event thing that you could buy. And then it became Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy from 2019 to 2024. And then this summer it's opening as the Disney Villains Unfairly Ever After show. So kind of going back to another villain show. Kind of a weird kind of space over there. And then for nighttime entertainment, the park did have a variety of different things going on. So when it opened, they had the Sorcery in the Sky, and this was when they had the big balloon come up at the end with Mickey, and I remember like he would shoot out of his finger sparks, and they would do different things over there, and this was behind like the Chinese theater area. Then obviously Fantasmic, still going on. The original show has changed, however, still the same show basically since 98, however, some new scenes were put in. They had a show called Lights, Camera, Happy New Year from 2004 to 2007, which was their nighttime show for New Year's Eve, because it's not really known as a fireworks park. They had Rock the Night fireworks for New Year's Eve from 2008 to 2015. They had the Rockin' 4th of July celebration. This is when they used from 2011 to 2017 Mulch, Sweat, and Shears to sing along. They had the Frozen Fireworks Spectacular for their Frozen Summer Fun. And then they did a Galactic Spectacular they did seasonally for like Star Wars events. And then they also did a Star Wars Galactic one, which they kind of changed around. Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam, which kind of left and came back. So that started actually in 2016 and then comes back now for the Jollywood Nights. And then the Disney Movie Magic and then the Wonderful World of Animation. Those are like the projection mapping shows that they still do, I think, on most nights in that same area. We'll kind of flip more over towards the attraction side because those are basically like attractions, but not, right? Yeah, we'll go with that. Let's go down to, well, actually, we need to talk about parades because this park used to have a lot of different parades. And I spoke about on my podcast recently how I miss when all the parks had parades, when we had Jam and Jungle and Block Party Bash, and obviously the 3 o'clock parade, which is now, I believe, at 2 o'clock. But I do miss having the parades. In 91 to 92, they had Dinosaurs Live. Now, this isn't like Dr. Seeker, that dinosaurs. This is the Not the Mama one, if you remember that far back. Then they had Aladdin's Royal Caravan from 92 to 95. The Toy Story Parade from 95 to 97. Hercules, Zero to Hero Parade. I wonder if they have those floats somewhere because that would be really cool to see this again. From 97 to 98. A Mulan Parade from 98 to 2001. Disney Stars and Motor Cars Parade. This is 2001 to 2008. I remember seeing this parade. They moved it over to Disneyland Paris into their second park in the Studios Park. Then, my personal favorite, Block Party Bash from 2008 to 2011. And then when they budget cut it down, they took the floats and basically cut it to Pixar Pals Countdown to Fun Parade from 2011 to 2013. They did a small 25th anniversary parade for one day, and then they did the seasonal one for Frozen Summer Fun, the Frozen Welcome Ceremony, and then, of course, they did all the cavalcades during COVID. Let's also look too. So I said Superstar Television, Monsters Inc. Also at the Soundstage restaurant, there was the Catwalk Bar up top. They had a little like secret bar in that area, which was cool. And then as I kind of go through my list, the Studio Backlot Tour. So now this one, near and dear to my heart, missed this one. This was with Catastrophe Canyon. They still kind of have the Studio Backlot Tour over at the Disney Studios Park. Nobody knows if they're going to be keeping that with the expansion. They turned it into a Cars road trip, and I did get to go on it. It was cool to be back in Catastrophe Canyon. However, the Cars road trip was terrible. But the Studio Backlot Tour basically took up the whole back of the park, and this closed when they redid everything with Toy Story Land, But this was an opening day attraction, and this is when you see the Golden Girls house, the Eiffel Tower, if you remember that. Rest in peace, the giant Mickey water tower, which one does sit over in the Studios Park, and they did say it's going to stay. That was all back there. They did knock down the old houses where the Golden Girls were to make Lights, Motors, Action, and that was added back in that back of the park, and then closed in 2016. And that also came from Disneyland Paris, which they still have the set of. Back in that area, they also had the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure in the back. And then over where Star Wars Launch Bay is the Magic of Disney Animation. And this is where you would take drawing classes. You'd see actually animators drawing over there. There was a video or a movie with Robin Williams back in the day. And this was really cool. This is, like I said, this is where you used to come in for the backlot tour, and then it became the animation building back there when they would actually make movies in the park. Rest in peace. Speaking of rest in peace, this one hurts. The Great Movie Ride. So the Great Movie Ride, opening day attraction, going through all the classic movies, and then it closed in 2017, replaced by a good ride, Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. However, a good ride that could have went elsewhere. Did not need to lose the Great Movie Ride. I'll always stand up for the Great Movie Ride. Still really upset about that one. But yeah, there is a lot of changes in that park, and still a lot of changes to come. It definitely seems like one of those that you kind of still feel it's a little bit of a hodgepodge of a park of, as you can see, a lot has changed just because the park was supposed to be a movie studio with 2 rides and a small park, and now it's a full park, kind of like competing with Universal. They did announce that the Rock and Roller Coaster is going to be changing to star Electric Mayhem from the Muppets, so Aerosmith will be going away, but it'll still be the same ride. And then also they're going to be adding a Monsters, Inc. door coaster. And I remember this being a rumor years ago. So it's interesting that they kind of found the drawings and came back to that one. And that's going to be back where the Muppet area is. They're going to be expanding that area back. And then they're also going to close, as I mentioned earlier, not happy about it, Muppet Vision 3D. And they're going to be putting in a show in there. But we don't know too much about that. But it is going to be interesting to see what the future holds for this park. It's interesting to think that Star Wars Launch Bay is in one corner, and then Star Tours is in another corner, and then Star Wars Land is in the back. So I'm sure as the years go on, this park is going to keep changing. This list is going to be growing. It's an interesting park because if you look at Animal Kingdom, not a lot has really changed since opening. Obviously, that's going to be changing in the next few years. But a lot has changed in this park, and a lot has shifted. And I don't know about you, but I miss the old studios. It's fine now. Baseline Tap House is cool. But I definitely miss the old studios. I miss what it used to be. I miss the tribute to the movies. But I will still go. And with that, I will see you at the parks.
Thanks for taking a ride with Average Joe Orlando.
You made it! I knew you would. Is everyone okay? Hope you still want to open an account.
Say cheese! See you later!
Thanks, everybody. You were brilliant.
At this time, gather up your personal belongings and take your small grubs by their grubby little hands as you exit. Thank you.